It started with a piece of paper taped to my front door. At first, I thought it was just junk mail, but when I pulled it off and read it, my stomach dropped. The HOA was fining me $200 a day because my truck was parked in my own driveway. $200 every single day until I moved it. They claimed it violated the aesthetic rules of the neighborhood. My truck wasn't broken down, it wasn't leaking oil, it wasn't blocking anyone. It was just my vehicle, parked on my property. And now they wanted to bleed me dry for it.
I stormed outside, furious. A couple of HOA board members were on the sidewalk, smirking as they snapped pictures of my truck like it was some kind of crime scene. "This is my driveway," I shouted. One of them laughed and said, "Rules are rules, move it or pay." And to make things worse, a police officer was standing right there, not to help me, not to stop them, but to make sure the HOA could enforce its notice. He stood there with his arms crossed, acting like I was the problem. That's when I realized this wasn't just about a truck. This was about power, and they were daring me to fight back. The next morning, I marched into the HOA office, notice in hand. I slammed it on the president's desk and demanded an explanation. She didn't flinch. She leaned back in her chair, crossed her arms, and said with the smuggest smile, "You've got 48 hours before the fines turn into liens. Pay up or risk losing your house." She was practically daring me to go to war. The officer who had stood outside the day before just shrugged and said, "Civil matter, not my problem." I walked out of that office shaking with rage. If they thought I was going to roll over and pay, they were in for a surprise. That night, I started knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, and what I learned made my blood boil even more. One man had been fined thousands for painting his shutters the wrong shade of blue. A young couple, they were hit with daily fines because their flower beds didn't match community standards. It was a pattern. The HOA had been using fake fines to squeeze homeowners for years. People were scared. Some had paid. Some had even moved. But me? I wasn't going anywhere, and I wasn't going to let them keep doing this. I stayed up night after night at my kitchen table, digging through every line of the HOA bylaws, every state law I could find. And guess what? Nowhere did it say I couldn't park in my own driveway. These fines were fake, completely fabricated. And it wasn't just me. They had done this to dozens of homeowners, pocketing money they had no right to take. I gathered everything: the fine notices, the HOA's threatening letters, even screenshots of their smug emails to each other. And when I had enough evidence to bury them, I called my lawyer. When the court date finally arrived, the HOA board came in looking confident. They thought they were untouchable. But as the trial went on, their confidence started to crack. My lawyer showed the jury forged documents. He projected emails where the HOA president bragged about making an example out of me. And then came the moment I'd been waiting for. The police officer took the stand. Under oath, he admitted the HOA had pressured him to stand guard while they enforced their fake fines. The courtroom went silent. The jury leaned forward. The judge's face hardened. Right then, I knew. I'd won. When the gavel finally came down, the sound echoed like thunder. The judge ruled in my favor. $1.2 million in damages. The HOA board members sat there pale and speechless. Their smug smiles? Gone. To cover the judgment, they had to hand over their most prized possession, the community clubhouse and HOA office. The empire they'd built on intimidation collapsed in an instant. Today, that very clubhouse belongs to me. The HOA still meets there, but not as rulers, as tenants. Every single month, they cut me a check just to use the building they once threatened to shut down. The police officer who once stood against me now tips his hat when he passes by. The same HOA that tried to fine me $200 a day now pays me rent. And to me, that's not just justice, that's reckoning.